Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Tuned In podcast, where we're going to talk about leadership, overcoming challenges, and hopefully we can inspire somebody to do something else along the way. My guest today's program is Darren Van Duyn. I've had the pleasure of knowing Darren for a long time, ever since high school anyway, and interacted with Darren a lot. Darren's one of those guys that I'm going to brag on you a little bit, Darren, before I bring you in here, but just one of those guys that's been a blessing to our community and a lot of people and a lot of things around here. So, Darren, welcome aboard, and thanks for sitting down with me tonight.
Thanks a lot, Eric. I really appreciate you having me on. When you sent me that message and asked me to be a part of this, it kind of caught me off guard, and I looked at it and I looked at it again. I'm like, heck yeah, I want to be a part of something like that. I think this is really a good deal you got going, and I appreciate being a part of it.
Yeah, no, great. And just kind of back up a little bit. Like I said, we went to high school together, and then kind of didn't have a whole lot of interaction until my kids got old enough to play ball. And then we went one day and signed up at the Westville Rec League, and lo and behold, there's Darren Van Duyn running the ship there. And man, it had to be 10, 12 years that I was there while my kids worked their way through the organization. But how many years were you involved with the Rec League, Darren?
From starting out as an umpire at the age of 17 until I finally stepped away was 30 years total.
30 years.
30 years. It didn't seem like that because things just went by so quick, but yeah, 30 years was a long haul.
Well, 30 years, and obviously, it goes without saying that you've seen a lot of things come and go there, but some of the things you did once, obviously the umpire thing kind of explains itself, but once you got in more of the administration role, what were some of your responsibilities when you took the thing over?
Well, and we'll go back just a little bit, because I've always had that mindset, and it was trained into me, I guess, through my parents and people like that. And they're like, if you're not satisfied with something, jump in and make it better. I watched my younger siblings play ball. I was never sports oriented whatsoever. I played baseball 1 year. The only time I got on base is when I got hit with the ball. So, so playing the sport was not my thing. However, I knew that the umpiring side of things was something I really thought I knew I would enjoy. It was taking control of the game. It was making sure things ran the way they needed to run throughout a game. And as I stepped into that a little bit more, and I kept going through that and seeing how you can really make a difference in somebody's life, even just in that role. And I thought, okay, let's take it to another level up and see what we can do there. And so, they were having some issues with the board. Things were not running really well. So I'm like, I'm going to step into that role and see what I can do. And lo and behold, 30 years later, I'm very proud of the organization. I'm very proud of where we were and where we took the organization. We had towns from all the surrounding area that were not a part of our organization that wanted to come in because they saw the good things that we did and the leadership that we had in there. And I'm very proud of that. Very, very proud of that. And the people that are there now are doing great things still. And I'm glad to see that.
Yeah. So you mentioned leadership. How would you define leadership, Darren?
Oh, goodness. Leadership is, in my opinion, is somebody that can, one, lead by example, give some direction, be that person that's driving the train, so to speak. And they're the person that makes sure that everything goes in the right direction and we're making things happen. And as a leader, you kind of tend to, there's several different types of leadership styles. And depending on the style that you have, there's that dictator. They're still a leader, but they're a dictator, and they're making sure things get done, but things can be done, a whole lot differently. And you get people to buy into your system and to buy into what's going on, and you're able to lead a lot better, and you're able to get people on your side, so to speak, So that's kind of, I guess, my definition. It's not really a good definition, but it's that person that drives the train and that makes sure things get done.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it right on the head when you talk about the the dictator, types that a lot of times those people will have short-term success, right? Because it's this way, this way, this way. It's very detail oriented. But like you said, you don't get people to buy into that, and they don't want to be around you, and they're not going to stick around to see those long-term successes. And you talked about growing the rec league. If memory serves me correctly, we had three towns in when we started, and it was a double by the time you handed the keys off to somebody else.
But by the time I handed things over, we were at 5, approaching a 6th town that we all brought in together as the one league. The Tri-Conference was no longer the Tri-Conference because we had added Bismarck, and we had added Oakwood, and we had a couple other areas that were interested in coming in. And we didn't want to stretch ourselves too big because we still knew that those parents had to work, and, to get off work and to get to a 6 o'clock game sometimes was not that easy when you go from Georgetown to Bismarck, or, vice versa or whatever. So we tried to stay fairly close to ourselves, but it was a good feeling knowing that people wanted to come in and be a part of what we had going on there.
Yeah. One thing I've heard you mention over the years, and I saw it in play there first. So, I know you don't like bragging on yourself or talking about yourself, but this really isn't about that. It's, when you became the president of the rec league, and you see these things, there's all these tasks that need to be done, even just in our ballpark, to get things ready for the season or the draft or uniform orders and things. You couldn't do all that stuff yourself, but you're responsible to make sure it got done, but you had to build a team of people that are willing to pitch in. And I think you did a fantastic job of that.
Well, I appreciate that. And I always live by the thing that you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. That's one thing I live by. So I have always surrounded myself with good people that are on somewhat the same wavelength. Now, I didn't want people that were always that yes person. I didn't mind taking in new suggestions. It wasn't always my way or the highway, because that just doesn't work. And I was blessed with people that came along for several years that always had their own opinions and always wanted to do things and to help better the league. And that's what it's all about. It takes an army sometimes to make all of that happen. It's not just one person. And a lot of people, they do contribute the success of the rec league and where we were at to just me. And I tell them time and time again that we had a huge army of people that made that happen, and they bought into the system, and they saw where we were going with it, and they helped work that through.
Yeah. So there's so many different things. Even once the season got started, you had umpires, you had the concession stand, you'd have the issues of somebody who would be acting up, and you'd have to go deal with that. But I all the years I worked with you, Darren, I never saw a side of you. If you had it, you hit it very well. You seem to manage that stuff. You were able to prioritize and address the things that needed to be addressed when they did. But, whether it was going in the concession stand and staying guard there for a couple hours and then have to be out on the other field umpiring a game, and, getting that team to buy in. I mean, talk a little bit about how you dealt with some of those challenges, because not everybody that wanted to come down there and volunteer was going to do that. And how did you maybe describe one of the bigger challenges you had there doing some of those things?
And you're right, Eric. That was very much a challenge because there are so many different personalities and people that are out there that want to volunteer, and you never want to turn volunteers away, because especially in this day and age right now, volunteerism is almost a dying breed because you don't see people doing it as much. So one of the hurdles and one of the things that I was always the first one at the ballpark and the last one to leave every time through the season. I think the people around me that worked with me saw that was a commitment that I had made. And I always tell them, I was like, I don't have a life, so I'm just going to be here, but it was, I wanted to make sure that things were, and it wasn't a micromanaging. It was just kind of just making sure that everything, because we all had things that we needed to do. And so to get people to buy into that really wasn't that difficult, because they did see the successes and they saw the commitment that I made. And so I think when they see that and they see what's going on, the leadership ahead of you or ahead of them, they're going to buy into it a little bit easier. Now, was it always that easy? Absolutely not. We did have conflicts. We did have, you know, there was a time that I can remember back in the early days of my tri-conference presidency. We would have 6-hour board meetings.
Wow.
And they were not pleasant. We put a halt to that pretty quick because that's not why we were there. We had to always, and that's the whole thing. I think you remind the people why they're there to begin with. And in the rec league sense, it's because of the kids. That's the reason why we're there. I didn't have any kids. But I always said that I had, 300 kids of my own because those kids meant the world to me, and to see them smile, to see them have a place to play, to see them succeeding, because I watched so many kids grow up from start to finish through that league, that it was pretty amazing. So
that was really cool. And I think one of the things that strikes me about you, Darren, and you see this a lot of times when people are volunteering, or, what is your passion, right? And your passion, we'll talk a little bit more here because I want to get into the Lions Club too, because I know that's a big deal for you and a big part of your life. But at this point, before you had gotten to the Lions Club, but it's a passion of yours. One, you said you weren't an athlete, but you enjoy watching it. Right. I'm enjoying the backdrop there. That's one of my favorite places in the world to be, right? Yeah. And it's just a beautiful place. But your passion was being there for the kids and making sure they had a place to play, and that something came up, which it did probably just about every night. I mean, there was something you had to address, right?
Sure.
But it was your passion to make sure that stuff was done, and the kids had a place to go. And that shows a lot to me when somebody's passionate about something. That's why you were willing to put in those hours. You didn't get, it's not like you fixed a retirement income or you were taking these huge trips. You did it because you loved it and you wanted to serve others.
Right. Absolutely. And that's, and that's what it's all about. And that's what I stress to anybody who gets into that type of an organization. When you're dealing with kids and stuff like that, you have to have that passion for those kids and to make sure that they have a safe place to play. They don't need to see all the conflicts and the yelling and screaming and stuff. And we curtailed a lot of that because that's not something that we wanted the kids to see, and to know that when they go to the ballpark every night, it's not going to be a fight and screaming match. They're going to get to play ball, and they're going to get to, experience things. It's a safe place for them, and we need to make sure that we keep it that way. And we did. We worked really hard to make sure that happened. And like I said, there were a lot of great people along the way that worked right by my side that made sure that happened.
Yep. And you talked about watching the kids grow up over the years.
Yeah.
And you and another individual from our community I can think of that I've seen you with those kids, interacted with those kids when they were younger, and now as adults, they'll walk across the park to shake your hand or say, "Hey, Darren," and you and Coach Eli Williams is another one like that that's been a tremendous influence to people in our community. And to me, that tells you really struck home with somebody, if they make a point to come over and say hi to you, how you doing, or tell you what's going on with their life. And I've seen that happen a lot with you.
It's a good feeling. It really is, to see where they are now and what they're doing. And I had one of the most amazing group of umpires. And as you know, we hired a lot of our umpires. They were high school kids. We put those kids to work. We had a very good core of umpires. And to this day, I still hear from several of them and what they're doing in their life, and, they're, getting married and their jobs and careers and stuff. And it's a very good feeling to have that. And thank you for, putting me in the same league with Coach Eli is pretty big, because I have the utmost respect for him as well. And working with him along the way. And he's, I don't feel like I'm in that group, but thank you for that.
Well, I mean that sincerely. And talking a little bit about the hours that you put in, it's servant leadership, right?
Absolutely.
Your passion was to serve, and we're gonna use this kind of move over into the Lions Club a little bit.
Sure.
But that's what it's about, is doing things for others and not expecting anything in return, right? That's really what this is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that, and it was kind of uh, funny, I guess. It touched my heart a bit. But when I finally stepped away from the rec league, and let me tell you, that was not an easy decision for me. Um, I struggled with that wholeheartedly, but once I did, I was contacted. They wanted to name a field. I that was not why I did what I
Right.
did, and that's not why it was the passion. It was for the kids. It was for serving our community and making sure that we had something like that um, for the kids in our community. And so it was a great gesture, and I appreciated that. But thankfully, that field's now being used for something a little bit better than myself, and so that's good. So yeah, but being a servant leader and being someone who enjoys service, and that's just in my blood. I mean, it is seriously in my blood, and I enjoy doing it. It's that warm fuzzy feeling that you get, I guess, if you want to put it that way,
Yeah.
of seeing the satisfaction on somebody's face of things that you do, how you help them, things like that. It's just, it makes me feel good.
Well, and it shows, Darren. And I want to take that opportunity to kind of move over to the Lions Club a little bit. So, how long have you been a Lion?
I started back for the second time in 2009 as a Lion. I started out first. It was in the 90s, I guess it was, and I was probably one of the youngest members on the club at the time. And because always the Lions have been known as, it was always a men's club for the longest time. And it was always known as the kind of the old timers club, if you want to put it that way, I guess. And so at that time, it really didn't fit for me. But I knew in my heart that that's where I wanted to be because I saw the great things that the Lions did. And so I come back in. I got asked by Mary Fertali to join the club back again. They were needing volunteers, and as you know, the Labor Day Festival was one of the biggest things they did. And when you don't have enough hands to make that happen, you go out and search. And so I wanted to be a part of the Labor Day Festival. And knew that brought a lot of joy to a lot of people in this town. Not having last year's festival was, again, one of the hardest decisions that our club, I think, has ever had to make. But it was a good feeling for me. I started back in 2009, and I just kind of took off from there.
So, if you could elaborate a little bit, I think you touched on it briefly, but a lot of people in our community and maybe the southern half of our county think of the Lions Club as the Labor Day celebration sponsor, right? And you guys put it on, but that really just doesn't even come close to touching base of what the Lions Club does for our community.
No, absolutely not. We are part of an international organization. Lions Club is an international organization. We are 1.45 million strong Lions across 212 different countries and geographical areas, and so we're a part of something much, much bigger. And here in Westville, which is a good thing because there's a whole lot of resources that are available to us to be able to serve our communities better. We've used to always be the eyeglass hearing aid people. That's what we did, is eyeglasses and hearing aids. That's what the Lions did. Well, now we've reached out and we've helped out in the fight against diabetes with education and helping testing and things like that. We've also jumped in here just recently to help combat childhood cancer. A few things that people don't know about. We've changed our global causes a little bit, and that's those are the things that we deal a lot with, hunger issues. So our club has helped out a few times down at the food bank down in Georgetown at Georgetown Township when they've had the food trucks there, and I think we're going to reach out a little bit more to them and see if we can help out there, because I think we need to be out in that capacity a little bit more, I think. And so, we do a whole lot more than just the Labor Day Festival.
And I don't mean to sound that to slight the Labor Day Festival either. I mean,
Oh, no, no, no.
that
Yeah,
is
I get it.
lots and lots of work, and I, being around you on a lot of those days when the parade was taking place, and one day for me stands out, and I'm sure you'll never forget. There was an automobile accident where we had some people hurt, and you guys, your team just came together around the emergency, the first responders, and took care of business, man.
That was a day that, well, for one, I'll never forget it. And I don't think anybody in our community will ever forget it. We all came together, not only our club, but like you said, the first responders. That's one thing. Everybody says, why do you have so many fire trucks and all this? Well, that day they were there. They were helpful. They were there for us. And it's hard to turn that away, And thankfully we all have radios on our club, and so that day when things happened, we had just stepped off the parade, and yeah, it was one of those things when you get told that there is a bad accident, and at the time, of course, things start out here and it's just an accident. By the time it gets back here, we've got
Right.
5 people that are seriously injured and stuff like that. Well, thankfully we radioed enough through our crews or through our crew and kept everybody pretty stable. Everybody was understanding. We weren't sure whether or not we were even going to go on with the parade that day. Had there been, and people have jumped around different sides of the fence on that issue, but we had to make a decision. We had a lot of people there. It wasn't a decision that was made by one person. We came together with law enforcement. We came together with just everybody involved there and made the decision to continue with the parade. And so so there's always challenges and always things that as a leader you have to find a way to deal with those challenges and involve your teams when you do that, because yes, you're the leader, and yes, you're the person that's driving the bus or driving the train, but it takes all of those people behind you and all those people that are with you to help make things happen. So when we all come together and you're all on the same page, it runs like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and it's having that team around you, Darren. Whether you mentioned it at the Rec League or the Lions Club, and we're gonna talk some more about the Lions Club and some other things here. But those people, they got to know that you're invested in them as a leader, and that you're open to listen to. You mentioned earlier being open to listen to different ideas and new suggestions. Because if they don't think they're being listened to, they're not going to stick around either. Or if they stick around, they're not going to be engaged and not going to be any help.
No, you're right about that. And it's one of the good qualities about being a leader is being a good listener as well.
Yeah.
Now, did I use every suggestion that ever came to me from other people? Absolutely not. But we talked about it, and we talked about why we weren't going to use it, and worked a way that maybe and maybe that in that aspect, you can look at it and say, well, that's a good idea, but what if we put this twist on it and made it just a little bit better?
Yeah.
Can
you share a little bit of influencers for you in your life? You were pretty young when you started at the Rec League, 17, and then early 20s probably when you made your first visit to the Lions Club. So some influencers that were important to you in your life and kind of helped shape the way you do things.
Goodness, too many to remember, actually.
Sure.
I remember back, she's no longer with us anymore, but Mayor Cindy Pataki.
Yep.
She had the Santa's Anonymous program, and that was my first exposure to any kind of volunteering whatsoever. I became a part of that and watched what was going on in that organization. And when you become, and I know, Eric, I think you've helped out there as well. And when you go on the delivery for that organization and you see the people that you help and you see the things that you've done, that set it off for me. That's where I knew I want to do stuff like that.
Yep.
And so she was a very strong influence as far as being a volunteer and being that person that did so much for other people. And so she led me in that direction. And getting to the rec league, I had people like Don Woods, who
Sure.
absolute legend umpire, and I followed right in his footsteps and he helped me from, start until the time that he stepped back. We've had so many people that along the way have kind of helped me and pushed me. And again, probably too many to mention, and not that I can really think of off the top of my head right now, but you get into the Lions Club and you had people like Barney Vilk and Bob Ruck and people like that just were there to help you through and make sure that you were, a part of the organization.
Yep. And it's doing something for somebody else and expecting nothing in return. It gives you fulfillment. You mentioned it just a second ago doing that. And that's what it's about, right? I mean, the hours that you put in there, and it's just rewarding when you see somebody else. You've had a hand in making somebody happy or making their life a little bit better. Doing something for somebody else first is really the key.
Yeah. I'd always taken a lot of criticism early on because I did so much for others and not enough for myself.
Yep.
And that's, to me, it's not about me, it's about them, and it's about other people being the best they can be, or being happy, or being a part of something that, I always took care, in my opinion, and still continue to do to this day, other people as aside from myself. I get by, I'm doing all right, and what makes me feel better and what makes me keep going through this is the people that you affect and the people that you touch. And the where I'm at right now in the Lions Club, I went through the whole leadership. I was a district governor for a year, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but I continue to serve not only the people of our community, but the people of our state in the Lions organization. And so I see other resources. I see other things that people are doing. I bring ideas back to our club. And these are things we can do for our community to better serve them. So it's been a fun ride.
I think it reminded me of a story when I first got on the fire department. Hadn't gone through EMT class, or maybe just starting, and I remember a call. To this day, I remember the lady was having a bad heart attack when we got there, and actually ran into her here. The paramedics came and took her. We were just, basic EMTs. Paramedics came and took her, and I ran into her the other day, and she tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "No, ma'am, I don't." She said, "You saved my life."
Oh, wow.
And and it was like, it's a very humbling moment, right?
Absolutely.
When somebody acknowledges what you've done for them. But there is that feeling that, man, you put that time in and you put that effort in, and you may not see it right then, but that stuff comes back to you no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's a good feeling. And you see, we used to see a lot of times in the Santa's Anonymous organization where we would help out families, and then you would see those families that later on they got, maybe they got things situated around and everything is good and they're doing well. They're coming back to help the organization because the organization helped them. We hear a lot of times through our organization with the vision and the hearing stuff that we did for the longest time. We talk about all the time. I usually have my Lions logo on almost a lot of times. And people recognize that logo, even though they don't know a whole lot about what the Lions clubs do. They'll recognize that logo and they'll say, "You guys bought glasses for me 10 years ago, whatever." And I'm like, sure we did. But you help so many people out through that span of time that it's really hard to remember them. And like the lady that came up to you, I mean, you just don't. You remember some, but you obviously can't remember all of them.
Right. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the local activities you do outside of the Labor Day festivities. You mentioned that the eyeglass thing was something I was familiar with for a long time. talking about raising awareness for diabetics, hearing aids, and a big one, man, that I think we'll run into is the childhood cancer. I mean, everybody knows somebody that's been affected by cancer.
Absolutely. And that's something that's new to our organization. And so we're trying to kind of feel that out a little bit and see how we can make, what we can do in our community to help out. We all know somebody that's been affected. And we've had several in our area that have been affected by that. And it's not easy for those families to deal with. And so we're in the learning process with that global cause and trying to figure out what we can do to help our communities. And so, every day I'm looking for different ways and different suggestions and things that we can do. Aside from all of the Labor Day festival and stuff like that, we do put on a breakfast with the Easter Bunny. Obviously we weren't able to do that this year, but we're hoping to bring it back. But we do a pancake and sausage breakfast. We also do, which was a fairly new program for us, is the Fill the Bus. And we collected school supplies, and we continue to collect school supplies for all of our schools, because we found out that a lot of our teachers are supplying kids in their classroom that maybe didn't have the ability to get school supplies. And so our teachers are taking that money out of their pocket to make sure they have the supplies in their classrooms. I was floored when I heard that. And so I'm like, we've got to do something. And so we do it. We started the Fill the Bus program. We have supplied all 3 of our schools for the last 4 years with several school supplies. We also put together a teacher grant program. So we're pretty big on the education side of things in our club as well. And so we put grants together. So if the teachers were taking money out of their pockets to go on a field trip, or they had certain things that they wanted to do in their classroom that the money just wasn't available at our district, we asked them to apply, and we actually provided quite a bit of money for them to be able to do things in their classroom to help the kids in our community.
So the Fill the Bus and the teacher grant program, those aren't national or international things of the Lions Club. You have the flexibility to do those things locally.
Yep, that's all local stuff.
Wow.
See, we have those 5 global causes as a Lions Club, the hearing and vision and all that stuff. But we also do humanitarian projects. So whenever there's a need in our community, we can be there to help out. And it really doesn't matter how we do it, to an extent. But if there's a need, and that's one of the big things that we say now on the Lions, where there's a need, there's a lion, because we're there to help with all kinds of things. We do a canine walk, a dog walk, right, in the fall, and all the money raised there goes to the Leader Dogs for the Blind, that provides service leader dogs or guide dogs to the visually and hearing impaired. And I'll tell you, we've raised probably, don't hold me to this, but we're real close to $12,000 over the last 8 years. Wow. That we've sent to that organization, that if anybody in our community should need a guide dog for any reason, we can send them to Leader Dog or help them get through that process. That dog is free to them.
Wow. Because
of the things that we do and the money that we raise for that organization. So that's a pretty big one for us, because we see there is a need out there, and for people to be independent with those dogs is pretty satisfying. I've known several people now through our organization that have Leader Dogs, and to see them and their independence and how they can maneuver through things is just amazing.
That's incredible, man. That's really cool. And I like the fact that you have the flexibility to address those things locally. I think some organizations maybe don't allow that kind of flexibility.
Yeah, we're able to do, here, and it's probably been 3 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer than that, but we had the ability to put new roofs on the restrooms in our park. So we were able to do things like that. We've got other things that are in the works right now that we want to try to do for our community, just our community. But yet we still need to look at the global aspect of things and know that we are a part of something a lot bigger.
So how many, roughly how many members do you have here in our local chapter?
Roughly, we have 28 members, I believe, at last count, which is good. At one point, we were down to 6 members.
Wow.
And as you know, 6 members and the Labor Day, 5 days of Labor Day wasn't going to work.
Right.
And so we did some heavy recruiting. I had a lot of success pulling some people over from the rec league as well. They already knew the volunteering aspect.
Right.
So to get them to jump on board. And I think that says a little bit, again, I hate patting myself on the back, but excuse me. But they knew my style. They knew what I did. They knew how I led. They knew that when I put something into an organization, I put all of it in. And they followed me with that, and they were a part of it. And we have such a great group of people in our organization, and we are probably one of the most diverse clubs in our organization right now. And to have a lot of the clubs, their average age is like 65.
Oh, wow.
The average age of our club is probably right around 35, 38, 40 maybe. And we have a lot of women. So, in 1987, the organization started letting women in. Well, a lot of the all-male clubs were still strongly against it.
Right.
But slowly but surely, we've all, adapted. And we have a huge mix, and it's a lot of fun. It really is.
So when you talked about recruiting new members, and you say you don't want to brag on yourself, but I mean, let's give credit where it's due. It's a culture that you built in the rec league and there, right? I mean, it's a culture of service and putting other people first. They know what you're about. I mean, you can't tell people that you're going to be a certain way and then act, you do something totally different. Then you have no credibility. Nobody's
Right.
going to follow you, right? So credit to you in doing those things. I mean, doing it the right way, Darren, or you wouldn't have grown that club up to 28 people. I know you're going to have people fall in and out or as things go
Sure.
along the way, and that's just the way,
Sure.
that's just life. But,
Right.
but culture is a huge thing of knowing that you're in it too, and you care about them. And reminds me of the old saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And it sounds very cliche, but it's true. It really
It
is true.
Yeah, very true.
So
I appreciate that. I mean, and that does say a lot. It really does. And to be able to know that we're not going anywhere anytime soon is a good feeling for me, because I know our community is going to be taken care of for a long time to come. And I hope to expand into some different things and I'll look at new ideas and look at new things to do. And, so it's good to know that we're going to be here for a while.
Yep. And you talked a little bit earlier about being the district governor. So how kind of describe that I'm going to say ascension. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but how you took on those extra responsibilities from being the local guy and getting involved with it at a state or a national level.
Well, funny story. And I say I had my arm twisted and it was a little bit, but it doesn't take much to twist my arm, because generally I have a hard time with that 2-letter word.
Right.
No.
Yep.
But I was asked because our district people had seen something in me that they liked, apparently. So I was asked to step in to be a zone chair, and to be a zone chair, you're over 6 clubs in our immediate area. And so building a relationship then with those 6 clubs in our area and helping them where I could, and being a part of the district cabinet was a huge step for me. It was something that was a little bit outside of what I was used to, because I always was just local, didn't really step out and do much more. And then as we were going along with the zone chair thing, the idea had come up that I would run for a second vice district governor to eventually succeed into becoming the district governor of our district. So I thought, well, do I really want to do this? Is it this type of commitment that I want to do. At the time, I was considering a run for, mayor of our town. And I'm like, gosh, is that it? There is a time where I think your plate can be too full, even though I try to stack it up as high as I can. But so I said yes. I'm like, why not? Let's try it. I went through the one thing that I can say that I really can brag a whole lot about the Lions Club organization is that if you want to improve your leadership skills, that is the organization to be in, because their leadership trainings from the time you're a club president on up until you're an international president, the leadership trainings that are offered by that organization are huge.
Can you talk a little bit
And
about those, Darren? Is it, are
we,
they seminars, videos, webinars?
there's
What?
all kinds of things. I mean, we have a Lions Learning Center that is on our website that has all kinds of leadership tools that and different leadership webinars that you can go on and watch and do stuff like that. We have a Lions University. And when I heard them talking about Lions University, I'm like, what in the world is this? I'm not going to school. I've already been there. I've done that. But then, I thought, well, okay, I'll take a look at this. And they're webinars, but they're course based, and they're I've actually graduated with a master's from Lions University. It sounds a lot bigger than what it is, but it's the leadership aspect and the training that you go through, the classes that they have. They're just 1 hour webinars, and then you take a quiz, but it's the content that's in there that you can apply to everyday life, not just Lions organization, but everyday life. You can apply it. And so that's been kind of huge for me in improving my leadership skills. And so I knew that once I got into I went through the second vice governor, and then I went to the first vice governor. And when I got to be a district governor, I created, I believe, in my opinion, a whole new culture for our district, because I was younger than most of the district governors had been. We gained a rapport with the entire district. I visited 59 clubs that year, which was a feat in itself.
Sure.
Because you're gone every single night of the week, almost Monday through Thursday, in some aspects. But it was traveling around, visiting these Lions, seeing what they did in their communities, seeing how we could help them, because at the district level, and then moving on into the state level, there are all kinds of resources that we have available to us that can help our clubs and our communities serve better. And so having those resources that I could take to these clubs when I'm talking to them, and giving them ideas and giving them things, it's just my way of serving the Lions and helping them out. And so as a district governor, I mean, that was one of the most rewarding jobs that I think I had in the organization thus far. The same year that I was a district governor, our council chair, which a council chair is kind of the facilitator over all 10 governors in the state of Illinois. And the guy that we had selected left in October. He moved away. And so I was selected amongst my group to serve as the council chair. So I served as a council chair and a district governor at the same time.
I'm thinking that doesn't happen very often.
No, it's happening more now than normal. And before, I guess that used to be common practice that it did. But I think with all of the things that the district governor has to do or should be doing in their districts now, it makes it a little bit difficult. But we made it happen, and it worked. And I'll tell you, that did a lot for me as far as improving the way I led, the people the way I dealt with people, I guess. We had two great people at the state level, Lion Jamal Wall and her husband, past international director Bud Wall, that were very influential for me and helped me get through a lot of our issues. different things and how to lead and how to help and how to do. And they were great people, and still are to this day. I mean, we're kind of on a, J-Man and I are on a team now at the state level, and we bounce ideas all the time. And to have those resources to where you can bounce ideas off of people is just huge. It's huge.
That mentor leader in different roles is really a big thing, right? And I've seen
absolutely.
you be that mentor leader to other people too, not the Lions Club, because I haven't been a part of that group, but I've seen it in other places for sure.
Yeah. It's fun because it's not about being the person that's up here. You want everybody to be at this level. You want everybody to be up there. So to share anything that you can, and I challenge people to take on other things and to improve and to do things. And if I can be there to help, that's what I'm here for. And I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yep. There's a great book, Mark Sanborn, You Don't Need a Title to Be a Leader.
Amen.
You know, and John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, and everything rises and falls on leadership. And Darren, we're getting close to the end here. We're going to get close to start wrapping this up, but just wanted to take a minute. You know, you briefly mentioned the run for mayor. We didn't talk about you served on our city council. Talking about never being home at night. I mean, you were at the park 6 nights a week at least, and and Sundays too. Being on the city council, you did run for mayor. You know, a lot of people aren't willing to get involved or put themselves out there. And I think you said it early on that, if you're not willing to take part in something, but how would you challenge somebody today? Because the climate we live in, let's face it, can be very negative, right? And how would you challenge somebody? Or the whole goal of this program is to inspire people to get involved and provide service and serve others. How would you just kind of basically sum up and how important it was to you to do those things?
Well, I'll tell you, Eric, to inspire people to the world the way it is today is very difficult. And it's really hard to explain it, but it is difficult because, one, we don't have the opportunities out there that I think the opportunities are out there. We don't have the people taking on the opportunities to make things happen. You have to want to do something. And you talked about it earlier, the passion. If everybody, I have a passion for Westville.
Yep.
I absolutely love our village. There are so many things about our village that I like. There are some things that I would love to change. And, and I mentioned it earlier, if you're not happy with the way things are, then get involved and make a change. The only way you're going to make a change is to get involved. Getting involved doesn't mean you need to throw yourself completely into it, but getting involved gives you a voice, it gives you an avenue, and it gives you that sense of, hey, I'm being a part of the change and not the complaints. So
very well said.
You can be that solution, I guess, the solution to the issue, and make a positive impact on several people. And you mentioned it earlier, there's just been countless number of people that I believe I've influenced, and I think that we can, are they going to run for district governor, and are they going to run for mayor of the town? Probably not, but you never know. We need that leadership now. We need the younger generation now to step into and be a part of. Put the keyboard down for a little bit, even though a lot of things nowadays can be done on the keyboard.
Right.
But put the keyboard down a little bit, get out there, get your hands dirty, be a part of the solution to make things better in your community.
I think you summed that up pretty good there, buddy. I
appreciate that. That's the way I've always been taught, and that's the way I try to stress to other people that you can't complain and complain and complain and just sit back and watch things. If something's not going the way you think it should go, get involved, be a part of it, see what you can do to help make that change. The change that you want to make may not be the right change, but if you get everybody thinking in the direction that change needs to be made, then you collaborate and you make the right change.
Darren, I've known you for a long, long time, man, and even like you said, you get those people together in the rec league, you'd make a decision. It may not be one that everybody enjoyed, but everybody knew
Right.
where you stood, right?
Right.
But you were open to bringing those ideas, and buddy, you have inspired people, and you talked about a positive impact a minute ago. There's going to be a lot of people you've impacted, and you're never going to know that, right? It may be years and years and years that somebody remembers something that happened or how you did something, and it's not for the reward. It's just putting
Right.
other people first, and you've been a great example of that for years in our community. Our community is blessed to have people like you here, man, and what you've done, and what you've done for my kids and my family. I really appreciate it for a long, long time.
I appreciate that, Eric. And your friendship and your family, I love them all. It's great to see the kids having grown up. I mean, I watched them all grow
Yep, you
up,
did.
and so it was definitely a pleasure. And Eric, we go, like you said before, way back, and if you remember back in the days when we were. We had, what was that we were doing with the old stage, and we were doing we were going to raise money for something. What were we raising money for? Oh my gosh, I can't remember.
It was
now.
muscular dystrophy. Yep,
Muscular dystrophy. That's right.
I'd
That's
forgotten all
right.
about that.
And we were working together and trying to make that happen and do things. And so, again, that's the whole part of, we wanted to do something to make a change, and we wanted to do something to make a difference. And we did. And that we were in school. We were still in school when that was happening.
Yep.
So,
well, Darren, I sure appreciate you sitting down with me tonight and chatting about this stuff. This is Darren, one more time, Darren Van Duyn, Lions Club member, Rec League president, city council member, just all around good guy. And Darren, appreciate your time and appreciate what you do for our community.
Eric, thank you very much. I appreciate you asking me to be on tonight. And I look forward to listening to the other guests that you have on your show here, and it's just very inspiring, and I can't thank you enough for asking me to be a part of it.
I appreciate it, buddy. Happy New Year to you and your family, and we'll see you down the road real soon. Everybody, thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time.